And then you get World War One, and there's tons of naval engagements, but I'll just speak about the ones I know by heart, kind of. Again, it's Asia Pacific. You have the East Asia Squadron of Maximilian von Spee, and he's basically completely isolated. He's going to be hunted by the Japanese, Anzac, British forces. So he just decides he's going to hightail it out of the Pacific by going around Cape Horn and going into the Atlantic to get back to Germany. But along the way, he just legendarily raids everything he can, and I mean, it's an incredible story. He detaches one ship, the SMS Emden, which goes on her own raid in the Indian Ocean, and she causes a shit ton of panic amongst the Entente powers. It's very impressive that one ship did what she did. But for von Spee, he gets to about the area of the Chilean coast, and he's now being hunted by another force, which was sent after him by the British. It's a very complicated situation, but the British give ambiguous orders to the admiral at the scene, and he's under the belief that he's to engage the enemy, even though his one significant piece of firepower is a very old ship called the HMS Canopus. It can't possibly hunt down the Germans because it's too slow, but it has the largest guns capable of taking them out. He thinks his orders are to go no matter what, so he just leaves it behind, says, try to catch up to us. He tries to attack von Spee, and his cruisers get annihilated by the Germans. It's a very lopsided fight. It has to do a lot with the time of day. The Germans used the sun against him. He showed up with forces that were not just slower, they were outgunned significantly. The Germans simply just battered them. So the Germans end up destroying this British force at Coronel. It's really embarrassing for the Royal Navy. So they send like a kind of ridiculous force to hunt down the Germans again. And this culminates in another battle at the Falkland Islands. And there we see two ships that I think are going to be at Jutland. It's the Invincible, I believe. It's the two battle cruisers. I can't remember the names of them. It's Indomitable and Invincible, if I'm not mistaken. But they overwhelm the Germans, who have half their ammunition because they can't possibly resupply at this point. And the East Asia Squadron gets obliterated by what is a faster, more heavily armed, and even arguably more armored ships, just proving the point that battle cruisers can take on cruisers, but battle cruisers will end up being kind of the most useless ships later on. Everyone will figure out. And I
But it was a bit of an overkill with a squadron of five German cruisers against like five British cruisers plus two battle cruisers.
Well, yeah, but von Spee, when his intelligence indicated to him it was going to be that HMS Canopus, which couldn't possibly race out, so he was thinking to himself, you know what? We don't even have to go and raid the Falkland Islands, but we can probably get away with it because they only have three. He thought they had three ships. It was the HMS Defense, uh, Good Hope, and another ship, I forget the name of which. He thought he would send two ships in, they would lure these ships out, they knock them out at sea, raid the Falkland Islands, and then just get out of there. When he shows up, they're all of a sudden fired upon by, like you said, these two battle cruisers that significantly outsped them. And these two things, they could have took out his entire fleet. But yeah, it was really bad for him. It's a legendary way to go down, though. It definitely was moral. It was demoralizing for the Germans, but it was also kind of this heroic. They had raided for so long, almost for like a full year, and got away with it. And yeah, that would bring us, that's in World War One now, and the next significant engagement, I guess, Gareth, if you want to talk about it, is Dogger Bank.
I guess I think I'll just talk about actually Gallipoli. I believe
Sure.
Simon has a little bit for Dogger Bank, but that's also like the prelude to two of our admirals who will be fighting. They fought there. But in Gallipoli, it's not really an engagement per se, but just the sheer, you know, arrogance of the Western allies. Because the Russians had a desperate plea to the French and British by late 1914 that, hey guys, could you please take out the Ottomans from our, theater of operations? We're already getting our, you know, suffering catastrophic losses against the Germans. And initially, the British kind of like don't support that idea, more so due to the fact that they were trying to buy the Ottomans' loyalty, which failed. Now, what happens is in 1915 in January, Vice Admiral Cradock proposed sending a force through the Dardanelles using battleships, submarines, and minesweepers. And a month later, the British war cabinet like, oh yeah, this is a brilliant plan. Here, take even more battleships. Now, keep in mind, most of the battleships that would be committed here are the pre-dreadnoughts, so it's fine. They are like, as some of the ships will be described, the 5-minute ships.
I mean, to be blunt, Sir Winston Churchill specifically, his part of the plan was these ships will never see action. They're shit. We want to get rid of them. Why don't we just send them off and they can do the best job that they can, get sunk over there doing some damage. That was it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's fine because like when we get to Jutland, some of the old pre-dreadnoughts that would be sailing were literally called the 5-minute ships by the German Navy. But in addition to these old pre-dreadnoughts that is given to Carden, he does get HMS Queen Elizabeth, which is a modern battleship. It's a modern dreadnought, and HMS Inflexible. Yeah, Inflexible was all over. And the France also gives a few battleships. The great Russian naval contribution was one cruiser.
Of course. Just to say they
And
were
then
there.
yeah, and one of the forces that also got committed for the entire operation was the Royal Marines and the 29th Army Division. The reason why I just wanted to bring that up was at this point, by committing the force here, Britain, from its professional army that had existed and reserves, right, like the army reserves, they are now fully committed. So now it's after this, it's just going to be the conscript units that are going to be feeding into the line. Just I thought it was just a bit of a important thing to note. Now, the Ottoman outer defenses had a lot of fortresses on the Gallipoli Peninsula, and they had guns which had ranges from 9 miles to about half of it. And there were like multiple defensive works which had been started, and a minefield had been laid out, or they was building one up since August 1914. Now, of the 100 guns in the pre-war defenses of the Ottoman forts here in the Dardanelles, only 14 were really heavy and long range, and 86 of them were carriage-mounted breech-loading guns. So they're not the howitzers or the field guns that dominate the world now. But so, 1940, Churchill does want the attack made. So on the 25th, like 19th February, you have two destroyers going in as, in like probing attacks to the straits. And then, the battleships HMS Cornwallis and Vengeance move in to engage with the Cornwallis and all. They're not able to do much damage because one of the key things is ships attacking fortifications. It's not really something that always, works. And on 25th February, the Allies attack again. And, 4 battleships are committed to the battle and to clear it. But again, they suffer a few capital ship losses. And the biggest action takes place on the 9th of 18th March, where the British and French line up their ships in just like a big show of force. Okay. So they are in 4 lines, 4 across. So just imagine like a 4x4 square. That's pretty much how they lined up with 2 battleships in reserve. And they attacked the Ottoman forts and got their, they were not able to knock out the guns or even sight them properly because a lot of the Ottoman guns were on the reverse side of the slope and their spotters were able to call out accurate information. And in this battle, the Ottomans suffer 118 casualties, but they sank 3 battleships and damaged 3 others. And after this, the admirals did not do what Churchill said, which was like, let these ships go and, let them try to fight their way through and do whatever damage they can. They're anyways relics. The admirals were not willing to commit anything further. So we have the start of the Gallipoli Campaign, which was initially first to clear out the Dardanelles Peninsula to allow the ships to move to Constantinople and put a show of force. But that was pretty much it, you could say, from the theater, from the naval point of view. Maybe Simon, we could just quickly touch upon Dogger Bank.
Yeah. So to understand Dogger Bank, we first of all have to understand the situation in the North Sea, which is essentially that the German Navy is trapped. By the Brits designed a blockade which essentially blocked all trade to Germany, and which was actually illegal. The treaties of the time actually state that neutral countries must be allowed to go to every country, but well, the British did not care, and they forced everybody to stop trading. Well, they did care in a sense that they reimbursed the traders for the damages, but it was
I believe
still
they
very
would.
much illegal.
I think what they were trying to do was, if it was like a ship from Norway or Sweden, right, which were neutral countries, moving to German ports, the British blockade forces would stop them, search them, and if they feel that it's vital to the war, they will turn them back or sink them with a warning or something like that. But if it was nothing like maybe say going to impact Germany from the war standpoint, I think they let it go, right? But they would like illegally board it, you could say, those
Well,
vessels.
Yes, to some extent, but we also have to keep in mind food is something that is vital to a war effort and was not allowed to be traded to Germany, which caused a massive issue with starvation of the civilian population, especially.
Yeah, it was called the Turnip War for a while.
Yeah, so this essentially caused the Navy to be trapped there, and essentially all that they could do was raid the British coastline